Donald Trump is completely spiraling out of control, as it is apparent that the American people want him impeached. The American people want him removed. We saw Quinnipiac polls. We saw AP NORC polls. We saw YouGov polls, all reflecting that Donald Trump's approval is at a worse level than when Nixon resigned and when Nixon left. But get this, the latest state regime media poll on Fox shows that Donald Trump's numbers as just as bad as all of those other polls. It is increasingly apparent that the American people want Donald Trump out. And when you even look at the Republicans, he's losing support there as people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie and others are pushed out because while they agree with Donald Trump on most stuff, they wanted to expose the Epstein class, and they don't support Donald Trump's catastrophic war in Iran with Netanyahu. Donald Trump was spiraling all last night and into this morning. I guess it soothes him a little bit to post weird photos next to Dana White and talk about this UFC fight that they want to do, where actually there's not going to be outside fans. They're going to use our military as props. Remember, they were like, there's going to be 20,000 fans, it's going to be 80,000 fans. No, they're going to use our military members as props. More AI images of the UFC fight. But let's just get into this Fox poll and I'll show you how bad it is. When it comes to the issue of inflation, Donald Trump's approval is net negative 52 on the economy, net negative 42 foreign policy, net negative 24. His overall approval on this Fox poll is the worst of both terms at 39%. By the way, the Quinnipiac poll has his approval at 34%, 33% on the economy. And when you look at Republicans in general, non-MAGA Republicans, Donald Trump's support is only 54% among white voters. His approval's 43%. Rural voters, it's 43%. Independents, he has like almost no support there. But then he's got to go and post about his ballroom. This is a real post from Donald Trump. Trump says his ballroom roof will host drone empire to defend DC. He then talks about this whole post, and it's like, really, you expect me to read this all? I ain't going to read it all, Donald. But he talks about how he's reawakened the granddaddy of reflecting pools and how there's 20 fountains that are being revitalized. And then he does another post where he says, shockingly, the parliamentarian is in the hands of a woman. So Donald Trump's desire to have taxpayers pay $1 billion for his golden ballroom was voided by the Senate parliamentarian who said, if you want to do it, it requires 60 votes in the Senate, a typical cloture vote. You can't just do it with 50 votes. Democrats can filibuster. So that was like a parliamentary decision. Donald Trump literally goes, shockingly, Republicans have kept the very important position of parliamentarian in the hands of a woman, Elizabeth McDonough. By the way, it's a nonpartisan position, but you see how much he hates women? He's so disgusting and vile and misogynistic. By the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene posted the following: I'm proud and thankful to have served in the U.S. House of Representatives with my friend Thomas Massie, a giant among weak, pathetic men. Releasing the Epstein files was our demise, but it was worth every single bit because now everyone knows the truth. You are ruled by the Epstein class that cares nothing about you, and your elected leaders are bought and controlled by a foreign lobby. Tonight, the future of the Republican Party was destroyed. The real America First movement will rise, led by younger generations who hate the old guard with an unquenchable passion. Let us pray that we have a country left by the time these creatures are gone, referring to Trump and current MAGA as creatures. There you have it right there. So then state regime media, which calls itself Fox, had a segment on just how bad Donald Trump's polls were. So that's what they show like in the afternoon. And then by the evening time, they knew Trump was watching. So they had to go full-fledged state regime media propaganda. First, let me show you where they shared the polling data that I just gave you. Play this clip.
The average price of gas is now above $4 in every single state. And just 5 months ahead of the midterms, new Fox polling shows 58% of respondents say the cost of living is their top economic worry. That's up 8 points from February. And 71% disapprove of the president's performance on the economy.
And then you had Kellyanne Conway bring on Senator Tim Scott, and here's what he said. Play this clip.
Thank God President Trump fights every single day for the American people. Let's join his fight by winning.
And he's going to be out on the campaign trail, Senator Scott. It's obvious. He certainly can send out the Truth Social post. He certainly can speak under wing of Air Force One on his way to the U.S. Coast Guard commencement today and give a great ad against Tallarico in Texas. But he's going to be there. He's going to show up, put up, stand up, and power up these races.
She then brought on then you had Joni Ernst on the Maria Bartiromo show talking about the ballroom. Play this clip.
If we can move those social activities on the premises of the White House, make sure it's secured, right. I think it's a great investment by the American people.
Well, that's why the president was defending the construction of the White House ballroom yesterday, saying it's not taxpayer funded.
How odd is that? Then you had Greg Gutfeld saying what Americans really want, they want to go back to healthcare before Obama, where you could just be forced to die if you had a pre-existing condition and healthcare companies can just deny you treatment for your cancers. Watch how psycho this is. Here, play this clip.
Anytime the government intervenes in an industry, that industry gets worse. Sure, healthcare wasn't perfect before Obamacare. Oh, but you wish you could go back to those days, don't you? Don't you? Anyway.
More from Kellyanne Conway. She speaks with MAGA Republican Senator Schmidt. Listen to what they say. And she's like, you know what? I do want to say Donald Trump has been remarkably consistent and accurate with everything that he said about Iran. With Iran, here, listen to this, then I'm going to just instantly fact check her to her face. Let's play this clip.
Well, I think the president's been pretty clear about what the mission here is and has really accomplished what he set out to do, which was to knock back their nuclear program in Iran and to knock back their conventional military capability. And so I think the president has shown a great deal of patience and prudence trying to get to a deal. You just heard in that quote. That's what he would like to do. So if he can make further progress on that point, to make sure that, Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. That's really his goal here. And I think he's engaged in serious, thoughtful diplomacy. He had, a lot of success there, which made time for the ceasefire, which has now made time for the diplomacy. And again, I think the president in his quote there is seeking a deal here to ensure that Iran doesn't get that nuclear weapon.
Indeed, Senator Schmidt, the president has been consistent from the beginning. The mission set here is to make sure they don't enrich uranium and get their hands on a nuke.
All right. Why don't I just share with you what you said on state regime media, April 26th. This is Donald Trump calling into state regime media on April 26th, where he said that Iran had 3 days left of existence because its oil wells were going to explode. April 26th, right? So almost a month ago, this is what he said. Here we are a month later on his 2-week death cycle. Here, play this clip.
You have lines of vast amounts of oil pouring through your system. If for any reason that line is closed because you can't continue to put it into containers or ships, which has happened to them, they have no ships because of the blockade. What happens is that line explodes from within, both mechanically and in the earth. Something happens where it just explodes. And they say they only have about 3 days left before that happens. And when it explodes, you can never rebuild it the way it was. In other words, it will always be, if you rebuild it, it's hard to rebuild it all, but it would only be about 50% of what it is right now.
Then Jesse Waters has to carry the bag for the oligarchy and says, you know what? If anything, we think Bezos makes too little money, right? He only makes $81,000 a year. That he barely makes any money. Here, play this clip.
Was $50 a share. Today it's like $250. The guy is a multi-billionaire because he owns a lot of the company. And you know how much his salary is? Salary is $81,000 a year. Because that's what he paid himself in like 1998, and it's kept that way. Now, he doesn't pay a lot of income tax on $81,000 a year because you can't tax wealth. All of his wealth is tied up in Amazon stock. He sold it once. He sold about $4 billion in stock a couple of years back and paid about $1 billion in taxes. And he basically lives off that, or he borrows from whatever the assets are. And if you want to go start grabbing his wealth and grabbing his company, it's illegal. Think about what this company does. You can get whatever you want, a slip and slide, sneakers, the Torah, at the click of a button. This has changed the world. We used to have to trade Indians for stuff. We used to forage in the forest. We have to build things. We have to elbow people out of the way on Black Friday. We don't have to do that anymore. This guy solved every single problem in commercial capitalism, and you guys want to put him in prison. No good.
Stephen Miller then threatening more war. Play this clip.
That was replaced. This new team in Iran has a choice to make. They can either agree to a piece of paper that is satisfactory to the United States, or they can face a punishment from our military, the likes of which has not been seen in modern history. That's the choice that they face.
Stephen Miller threatening war against Cuba. This is what they do when they're in a corner. Play this clip.
American presidents for generations have tried to deal with the problem, the threat of this communist foothold just miles away from America's shores. And President Trump, through his leadership and his vision, has brought us closer than ever to the day when Cuba will be free and when Cuba will no longer be a threat to America.
And then, Fox is a little bit squirming because they then have some hosts who go, yeah, it was a really bad move when Donald Trump endorsed Ken Paxton over Cornyn. Senator Cornyn's the incumbent senator in Texas. And now you have James Tallarico, the Democrat, who's polling 4 points or 5 points ahead of Ken Paxton, the impeached, corrupt AG of Texas. Here, play this clip.
Yeah, John Thune thinks that John Cornyn is a supporter of Trump, and so does John Cornyn, Ben Demenich. But you got President Trump doesn't apparently believe that.
Trace, you're asking someone who worked for John Cornyn for 3 years to comment on this. How am I supposed to adjudicate this? No, look, I understand the reason the president made his decision. Ken Paxton's way more loyal to him. John Cornyn is more of an independent thinker. But I also think that the unfortunate side of this for the Republicans is that they may have to spend a lot more money on Texas. And my attitude toward this is if they pick Ken Paxton, I think that national Republicans should let Texas dangle. If you break it, you bought it. You should pay for your own way forward. You should not have to cost the races in other states, including states like Ohio, Maine, North Carolina, et cetera, the kind of resources that Republicans need in order to hold the Senate, because you picked a candidate who's going to be a lot more controversial than the guy who you could have picked.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.